Hello, everyone. Whoops. Hello, everyone. This is Julie Blomquist. I'm with the PASS DBA Virtual Chapter. Today, we're having a presentation from John Miner, and it's on designing custom maintenance plans using the Ola Hallegren scripts. The sponsor for our meetings is Dell Software. Dell supplies the funding so that we can have the raffles, and that will be announced at the end of the presentation. We have SQL Saturday events listed for January and February. These are free Monday, Saturday training sessions. Kind of a mini conference. Oops. PASS has quite a large group of chapters which are virtual, and with your PASS membership, all you need to do is get associated with the different virtual chapters, and you will receive the email invitations. The Business Analytics 24 Hours of PASS is coming up. I think that's February 5th. PASS also has an outstanding volunteer program. Volunteers can be nominated at any time, and you just submit the recommendation to the volunteer recognition at SQLPass.org. The PASS Business Analytics Conference is coming up May 7th to the 9th over in San Jose. And you can sign up for your free membership to PASS. I'm sure you already are, but this is the information about SQL PASS, and you can, like I said, associate with other virtual chapters and get information. Today's presenter, John Miner, has over 20 years of IT experience, including a master's degree in computer science from the University of Rhode Island, with concentrates in the database technologies and programming languages. He's also a Microsoft Certified Database Administrator and a Systems Administrator. John's currently a SQL Server Developer, Administrator, and in charge of the best practices by the IT team at Sensata Technologies?
Sensata. Almost.
Sensata. We're close. So I'm going to pass this over to you, John. I'm going to do change presenter.
Excellent. Okay, cool. I'm going to hit show my screen. I just want to welcome everyone to today's presentation before I switch over to Julie. Can everyone see my webcam, I hope?
I see your webcam.
I'll hit show my screen. Is that better?
Yes, okay. I see the screen.
Excellent. So I just wanted to thank everyone for attending during your lunch this presentation. It's a very interesting topic. Backups are one of the things that can get you fired as a DBA, especially if someone comes to you and asks for data and you lose it all. So very important to do. Some notes I have on the side I'm going to read from. Basically, I'm the chapter leader of the Rhode Island chapter. Okay, so if you're in the Boston area, Rhode Island area, come down. We meet the second Wednesday. Again, Julie did a great job, 25 years experience. Last 6 years I've been doing ETL and database development projects, so that's been really interesting. I do blog at craftydba.com. I want to say that these scripts are based on Ola Hallegren scripts. He's an MVP from Sweden, so we'll talk more about that. Two more selfless plugs I have to get in for other chapter leaders. In March, there's going to be, beginning of March in Hartford, Connecticut, there's going to be SQL Saturday. It's definitely the best bang for your buck. It's free. It only costs $10. That's usually just for lunch, and there's a lot of good names that show up. And last but not least, at the end of March in Boston, Mass, there's also going to be a SQL Saturday. I'm going to ask everyone to make a list of your questions and send it to Julie at the end of the presentation. I have about 25 slides and a bunch of SQL to go through, so without further ado, let's get to the presentation.
And this presentation is being recorded and will be posted on the DBA VC archive site.
Okay, I'm going to, okay. How do you turn off the webcam on this? Show my screen. Okay. And again, this is the first time I've done it with Julie on this one, so I just want to make sure. So can you see the presentation, Julie?
Yes, I see the slide deck with the little slides on the side.
Excellent.
But I still see the webcam.
Let me see if I can hide that. People can see the screen. Okay, is the webcam off?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. I'm sure you don't want to look at me for a whole hour. Okay. I'm going to minimize this and we'll get going. Okay.
You just need it in slideshow mode.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I think I lost all with the actual toolbar here. I lost all my little things I usually use. View. Okay, slideshow. Here we go. Sorry about that again. Technical difficulties. So again, we're going to be talking about custom maintenance plans. And today I'm going to use the OLA Hologram scripts. I'm going to talk where you can download them from. And thanks again, Julie, for inviting me to talk at the virtual chapter for database administrators. So if you're not involved in past, please get involved. I like to do for every presentation is actually go over the topic and talk about exactly what I'm going to cover, okay? The following subject is going to be covered today. I'm going to be talking about installing the hologram scripts, okay? There's system databases versus user databases. Some of this is going to be really simple. If you're a DBA, you probably know it cold. I'm doing it from a novice standpoint, so if anyone's listening that doesn't know anything about SQL Server, has some knowledge, hopefully they'll get something out of this presentation also. We're going to be also talking about recovery models. You know, those are very important. There's a lot of options in the OLA hologram scripts. We're going to be talking about the basic options, just how to get a backup. We're going to be talking about advanced options. There's some things that you can do to actually tune, okay, the script. This allows the script to actually run faster. It's a little tweaking at the I/O level, like how many buffers, and it'll make sure that your backup will finish in the time that you have allocated. One thing I've seen in T-SQL that's not part of the OLA hologram scripts is the mirror to. That is a nice feature in which you can say, hey, back up to my local SQL Server drive, as well as back up to, say, a share. Okay. We're going to be talking about why back up the disks and then swipe the tape. We've had problems in my old organization in which, you know, we were going directly to tape with Symantec's agent, and, you know, if there's a tape missing, you don't get a backup. So just to stop, you know, maintenance nightmares, go ahead and make sure that you, you know, do disk to disk, and hey, if you get the tape that night, that's great, but it's not critical. Like anything, those tapes have to be rotated out. If you leave them in the server room, they're not going to do you any use, especially if the server room burns up. So you want to use some type of rotation scheme. There's two that are known out there, Tower of Hanoi and grandfather, father, son. Second page. After you've done the backup, the question you want to know is once a week, hey, you know, is the integrity of your database good? Okay. If you have a database that has problems in the allocation scheme, then you're going to have problems, you know, restoring as well as pulling data. So far we talked about backing up, which is basically making sure that you have the data to restore on demand. Next thing you want to talk about is index maintenance. There's two commands in T-SQL, reorganize. Usually that's done by suggestion of Microsoft, between 10% and 30% to reorganize. Anything over 30%, it's easier to rebuild. If you do a reorganize, you have to update your statistics on your table. If you do a rebuild, statistics automatically get updated. But again, we'll get into details, and I do have a slide deck presentation that will go into examples. I must have did some numbering wrong here because I changed the slide and we went from 12 to 11, but that should be 13. We also have the restore command. Once you get the backup, a lot of times you need to, someone comes to you and say, hey, I need a copy-only backup because I want to, have tests initialized. And so you get the backup, you copy it over, and then someone goes to restore it on your staff, and they say, oh, they're having problems. Well, that's why you want to do a verify only. That will allow you to make sure that the backup is still good after you get it to the target location. This recently happened to a member on my team in which they copied over from one server to another, and they didn't use a copy tool such as SyncToy. And so it wasn't safe with network interruptions, and basically we had an invalid backup because it was corrupted. So I'll save you some headaches by doing the verify only and file list only on the backup before actually installing it. Okay, and then we're going to talk about, for a given database, okay, how to restore a database using a backup chain. And what I mean by backup chain is we're going to be talking about full backups, differential backups, and log backups. Okay, and so you have to pick each file correctly to get your point-in-time recovery. And now leading to my next question, what is a point-in-time recovery? Well, it depends upon your company is how critical the data is, as well as what you're willing to lose, okay? If you do log backups once an hour and you have a critical failure and you try to take a tail backup, which means grab the end part of the log, okay, and you can't get that, that means you're going to lose an hour of data, okay? So, you as a company, as well as the business, okay, side of the company needs to determine, okay, how much data are they willing to lose, okay? Once you have that, you know exactly how often you have to do your log backups. Last but not least, a lot of people take backups and they find out that when you need it most, it's not valid. Just like I said, if you copy it to the wrong place, or say the backup server that has a ton of disk, okay, gets corrupted, you go to that backup and it's corrupted. So it's very worthwhile, okay, to have some type of plan in place in which you're testing the backups via restore. We do that to a test system, and so we know our backups are good. Okay, you don't have to do them all, but a percentage of them, it's definitely worthwhile. And last but not least, I'm going to be talking about what you should be doing on a daily, weekly, and monthly task. Okay. Again, these will make sure that you have that backup in hand when you need it, as well as you have the performance you need on your server by having those indexes and statistics up to date. Okay. I always try to put a Dilbert slide in because it breaks up all this technical jargon. But basically, all the demonstrations we're going to be doing today are in code. Okay, so you should be familiar with SSMS, okay, and T-SQL. Okay, so we're going to be definitely, the scripts are using T-SQL, and you need to know it. If you not have that basic understanding, I'm not going to be offended if you leave now. I love this cartoon strip in which the manager comes and says, hey, I want to build this SQL database. And he says, oh, does my manager just see something in a trade magazine? And he goes, well, what color you want? And the manager says, hey, it's mauve, it's most RAM. Well, nowadays I think Scott Adams has to go back and update this because maybe it should be Azure instead of mauve. Okay. So why are we spending all this time talking about backups and maintenance plans? Okay, we want to prevent data loss. That's basically it. So if you have a hardware failure, like you had a RAID 5 system and 2 drives went, you'd have to go and find another server to restore it on. For instance, say if you had an ETL job and it wasn't thoroughly tested in a test environment. The job ran last night and started carving out a bunch of data and deleting it. You definitely would have to have that backup in place to restore. And last but not least, sometimes there is corruption. If you get corruption on a daily basis, then you definitely have to look at your hardware again. So we talked about the backups, and the second part of the scripts is actually getting, rebuilding those indexes, reorganizing to fix fragmentation. And why do we want to do that? Well, users want to go to a web application and actually get, that snappy response, okay? Or even if it's a, two-tiered application inside. And if you don't have ordered indexes and updated statistics, the query analyzer, when it comes up to a plan, might actually come up with a full table scan, okay? What's the interesting part about this whole thing is that I was surprised, even my current company when I came there, that many of these places were not in place, okay, these plans. And so after 2.5 years of leading the group, I'm finally getting to a point where we're like 99% correct, all the plans are in place, okay? There's some requirements, okay, and I'm not going to talk about this, but I just definitely want to get them out, is that database mail has to be set up. When you set up a job and you're going to do, say, backup for user databases, you want to send a notification for the failure. So we definitely want, mail to be set up. Second thing is you need operators to be set up. So usually when you set up a job, you select an operator to send an email for failure on. And last but not least, I'm suggesting you use Active Directory distribution lists. People come in and out of the company, and so you don't want to keep on going in there and making changes to the operator. Okay. If you haven't been to the site and you're following along right now, just go ahead and type ola.hologram.com and you bring up the site. Mr. Ola Hologram was awarded the SQL Server MVP Award in 2014, okay? And he spent a lot of time building these scripts and giving them to the community. I've actually did some scripts in 2011 on my own. You can see them on my website, craftydba.com. I abandoned using these because I didn't do a great job as Mr. Ola. Also, I just didn't have time to keep on updating them. And when I saw these, I said, oh my God, these are much better. The cool thing is he's keeping them current. Okay, so 2014 is in CPT2, and he's updating them. These scripts have won gold awards in the SQL Server magazine from 2010 to 2013. Basically, with these backup scripts, you can actually get backups, integrity checks, and index maintenance is done at ease. So if you're at the novice DBA level, boom, you'll have them done. All editions of SQL Server are supported. Should I say the ones that are currently under support? There's not much out there for 6.5, 7, and 2000. Those are discontinued. Anything from 2005 and greater, they're definitely supported. Okay, so hopefully while I was talking, you went to the site and you banged on it, and now you see that Ola hologram's there. You can download the maintenance script, and that's called maintenance.plans, I think, .SQL. And there's a few things you have to set up before executing the script, and I want to talk about those. Okay, first thing is, where do you want to put these scripts? Maybe you have a tools database, and if so, then where it says use master at the top, you're going to change that to tools. Okay. Second thing is create jobs. Well, out of the box, the Ola hologram scripts create 11 jobs, and it also creates one table and 4 stored procedures. And that's basically, this is all written in T-SQL, which is really cool because while the scripts are really easy to use, there's nothing more than T-SQL. If you know T-SQL, you can look at them. In fact, I've at the end of the slide, I'll tell you one case in which I had to modify that job, the script, because the users in Bulgaria came up with a weird name and they shouldn't be using that. So I couldn't go rename it because it's a production database, but I went and fixed the script and now it works. So again, create jobs is going to tell you whether or not to create the jobs. the backup directory is where, as a default, when it creates the jobs, where you're going to be putting your backups. Okay. For me, I made it really simple: MS-SQL on the C drive, and then after that, there's a subdirectory called backup. Okay. There's some additional error files that might actually happen. Okay, and those will go into the output file directory. You can specify an output file directory, or they default to where the error files go for SQL Server on the base install. Okay. Last but not least, please make sure that the log2 table is a yes. Okay, because at that point, all the scripts are going to be logging the table, and all the scripts have a option execute, and it's a ampersand. It's a parameter. You can set that to no, and if so, it will go ahead and actually generate the script for you, like it was going to actually execute. It's going to save all the information to the table, okay? And you can actually look at the internals and see what all those hologram scripts are actually doing. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide, and then we're going to actually take a look at SQL Server SSMS and the jobs. Oops. Sorry about that. Right there. Okay. Still getting used to this webinar. I usually present to live people, so it takes some getting used to. So what objects installed by the script? That would be the first thing. Hey, you know, what does the script do? Okay. I chose to install an MSDB. Okay, the table is called command.log or log, and it basically shows the commands that are executed. It also puts 4 start procedures out there, like I said. First one is command execute. And what it does is it logs at a start procedure, and then it executes the command. That's all it does. There's a very lengthy next 3 scripts, which are back up the database. There's tons of options. I'm not going to go in every single one, but I'm going to point out the most interesting, I think. There's database integrity, so check the integrity of your database. And optimize index, or index optimize, which optimize your indexes. So that does your reorg and your refragmentation, okay, rebuild. So the jobs again, there's 11 predefined jobs created. No scheduling and notifications have been configured on these jobs. I usually set, when I do this, install jobs equal to no, because I put my own jobs in them, okay? But we can see down in MSDB, okay, and then there's a command.log table, okay, and you're automatically going to get your command execute, database backup, integrity, optimize. There's going to be 2 more start procedures I'm going to talk about. One I wrote, the next 2 I wrote. One is get backup chain. So given the database, it's going to tell you what the backup chain is to actually use, and USP get maintenance progress. If you got a really large backup, you might want to see how it's going. However, it's like paint, you know, watching your neighbor paint. If you keep on interrupting them, the backup's not going to ever finish. So it does take some time to actually go ahead and see what the jobs are doing. So poking at them once in a while is not bad. Don't do it all the time. Okay, so real quick, we can see that we get a command log cleanup. So that's basically going to clean up the file. So any good program there knows that when you store some data in a file, you want to write some purge routines. So that's doing that. Same thing with the output file cleanup, the delete backup history, which goes into MSDB's backup history, and purge job history. Okay, so it actually creates, you know, a system full backup, a user differential, full log, and same thing with the integrity. Okay, so if we double click it, and again, I'm doing this just to show you what comes out of the box. Basically, I ignore these and I just use the snippets that I'm going to show you. So if we double click a actual step, okay, and this is a full system backup, right? Okay, we can see that it's using SQL command, and then what it's going to do is going to execute the start procedure we talked about, MSDB, and then it passes a bunch of parameters to it. Interesting thing to note is, again, there's no schedule associated, so it's not going to run out of the box. You have to schedule it. We'll talk about scheduling. And there's no alerts or notifications, okay? So no one's going to get notified. If we wanted someone to be notified, you want to put email and select administrator, okay? So now we've talked about this. I'm going to do some cleanup from today. I was doing some playing around. So this is going to clean up some subdirectories for me that I was playing in. It's also going to remove the command log. I don't want to show any old history. I'm going to run these to clean up the backup history and the job history, okay? And I've been blogging for the last 2.5, 3 years, and two of my presentations, one is I use a toy database called Autos, okay, and we'll talk about how to do a tail log backup. So I'm going to remove one record to make sure we're actually set to do that demo, which it is. And I also talk about the barbecue, Big John's Barbecue Data Warehouse, okay. So one of the things that you can pass to these scripts is whether or not it's a full backup and whether or not it's going to be system databases or user databases. Those are key words that you don't have to list every single database, okay? So OLA considers the master, model, and MSDB and TempDB system databases. So just to do a select from sys databases, we can see that these will be considered system when we pass the system parameter. Okay? User databases on here are any database that's not in there. Okay? So some of the things that you would think be in there, like report server and report server TempDB, which are for our reporting services, are not included as a system database. Okay? They're user database. So again, if we take a look at it real quick, and I ordered it by name, we can see I have AdventureWorks. And then I have the Autos database. I have my barbecue, which is the data warehousing with table partitioning, view partitioning, and sharding. And then we have the report server. So those are our databases in this toy system. Okay. So let me get back to the slide deck, and then we're going to jump right into doing a full backup on systems. Okay. Ooh. Gonna have to edit this out, Julie. Keep on going to the beginning. Okay, so we just talked about this. Example 1, system users versus database users. So the script defines, master, MSDB, model, and TempDB as the system databases. Okay, before we get into actually doing any backups, we should talk about recovery models. Okay, and that's a basic with any DBA. Keep on doing this. Sorry about that, guys and girls. Let's try this again. There we go. Wow. Slideshow. Current slide. There we go. So basically, simple recovery model, okay, is basically the transaction log gets automatically truncated during periodic checkpoints, okay, so it can't be used for recovery. Full recovery model, you can use the log for doing a point-in-time recovery, so that's great. And the bulk log recovery model, okay, it's the same thing. The only difference is that between a bulk copy operation, it's just going to minimally log what changed, okay? Backup options. There's two types. There's basic and advanced. The basic backup operation needs a database. So you're going to pass it a database name or a keyword. And there's some keywords. User databases, system databases, and all databases. Okay. You also have to pass to it a directory. Where are you going to back up to? Okay. These scripts are all based upon saving the backup to a file somewhere. It's either on your local disk or some network share. I suggest putting on a network share, hopefully some disk that you have attached to your tape backup. If you have more money, you don't have to worry about that if you have a SAN environment, but we'll talk about that later. You can give it a description, and of course we just talked about there's going to be 3 backup types: a full, which means go ahead and give me a complete backup and I can restore a database from there; a differential, and a differential backup is based upon any changes that happen from the full to now; and a log. And the interesting thing that always got me when I first started using these scripts is the cleanup time. That's expressed in hours. Okay. Other options I think are really key. The verify. Do you want to verify the backup before it's actually finished? Whether or not you're going to compress the backup. That's supported in 2008.2 and greater. Copy only. That's great. You don't want to break your backup chain. Okay. Your backup chain is important. So if someone said, "Hey, restore to a test environment," do a copy only. Do you want to do a checksum? Checksum is going to make sure that the backup's good after you're done. And again, you always want to log to the table. And if you just want to see what all the scripts are doing, you can say execute yes or no. Okay. So what we're going to do is going to go to example 2. Okay. This example, we're just going to do a full system backup. Okay. And it's going to go to system database. Let's see again a keyword. And it's going to go to MS SQL backup. And if we go down to MS SQL and backup, okay. For some reason, I thought it ran the clean. F5. Let's see. Okay, so now I cleaned it up. Okay. So what we have now is we have our data files in here, and we're going to back up to here. There's no backups yet. Okay. So let's run this. Excuse me. Okay. So by default, you'll get a bunch of messages that can be either logged in your job if you schedule this as a job, or right on the command line, so it tells you what you passed. It tells it found master, what is it online, offline, is it updatable, multiple people can use it, recovery model, your log sequence number, you know, it's a snapshot, whatever. And it just keeps on going down. You can see also that it's actually creating the subdirectories, which is really cool. The subdirectories are based upon the root path, and then the actual name of the computer, and the name of the database, and then whether or not it's a full, a differential, and a log. Okay, so I would schedule a full backup one time in the day if it's system. They're really small. Same thing with the log backup. You can schedule those one time an hour. Usually not too much happens in these databases, but it's not going to cost you anything to actually back them up. Okay. You can, if you have something really big going on and running, you can actually use this script I supplied to you, which is USP_get maintenance projects. And let's try to do that again. Control C, new window, Control V. Let's go back. So again, this is the whole hologram. We had that installed, so we don't have to do that. And what we'll do now is hopefully this takes enough time that I can actually switch to the other window and show you. Execute and execute. And we can see now that actually a backup's been happening, and the percent complete is 29%. So if you had that huge backup and you didn't know what it was, how long it was going to take, you can see lapse time, and estimated time is going to be at 12:34. So pretty much instantaneous because it's a small database. And now the backup's done. Okay. So what we did is this was a full user backup, so user databases. And I'm going to keep 2 weeks online, so basically 24 hours in a day times 14 days. Okay. Next one, we're going to do the same thing. And again, this is differential. So now you can see how easy it is to actually just back up databases and create maintenance plans via scripts. You just have to create a couple of jobs and put the script right in there, and you're all set. So this one we can see again is Developer Edition and User Database. It goes through and says, hey, you know, all these are my user databases. So you can go down, it tells you all the pages that were backed up and so on. Last but not least, we'll do take a quick look, and then we're going to do a log backup. So for instance, the autos, or which one I'm talking about, Big John. Big John's database has a couple of staging tables, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to do some intentional deletion. Okay, so there's a full backup. Real cool thing about it is you get the date and timestamp, okay? So they're pretty unique, and it's in a different directory than the differential, okay? going to go back up here. And what we're going to do is in this table, okay, Big John's, on the staging, we have some data. We have 200 records, I think, under first names, and 1,000 records under second names, last names, should I say. So what we're going to do is we're going to destructively delete something. Okay, execute. So this is going to allow us to do that point-in-time recovery we talked about. And the last one is we're going to talk about doing a log. So we're going to back up the log right here. Execute. Okay, and again, if we switch over to the log, we can see now that there's a log file for Big John. So we have that differential just happened before that intentional delete. So if we restore the full and then the differential and not use the log, we'll get back to where we need to be. There is some advanced commands, okay? If you are going ahead and actually backing up, and I was talking to Julie ahead of time, huge databases like a 20 terabyte database, it could take a really long time to run, okay? These commands right here, the first four, you can actually tweak it, okay? The transfer size, okay, is the largest unit that's going to be transferred from the server to backup media. In this case, the disk, it's defaulted to 1 megabyte. So, you know, the system stores at the disk level usually 4 megabytes. So we can bump that up, okay? We can also change the physical block size, okay? It's defaulted to 512. We can also change the buffer count. It's the number of buffers that I've set in memory to actually do the backup. And that's equal to the buffer count times the max size. Okay, I don't usually figure this out, but this is something that you can tune and try to experiment. Okay, and last but not least, the number of files. Okay, divide and conquer is always a good idea when you have huge databases or anything that you're doing that's large. Okay, so if we give it more backup files, it'll probably run faster. And last but not least, I'm not going to do any demos on this, but I wanted to tell you about read-write file groups. If you have a data warehouse in which you're storing data at a file group, you partition it into file groups, regardless of whether or not you're using partition views or you have the enterprise version and you're partitioning using table partitioning, what you can do is you can mark those old tables or file groups, okay, as read-only. And what happens is once it's backed up, it won't be backed up again. So instead of nightly taking that full backup or differential on 18 terabytes, now you can just say, hey, go to my most recent file group and back it up, and that will save you a lot of time. Okay. So example 3 is actually going to show how you can play around with the settings, okay, and actually come up with better execution time. Okay, I just want to poke. So we're at 1240, so I'm going to probably go to 115, knowing how this is turning out right now. So hopefully you have time to stay with me. So when you go ahead and you do a backup, right, and you want to time something, usually go ahead and set statistics IO on and time on. So we're going to do that. And then we want to remove anything from the buffer, okay? You don't want to do this on a production server. Obviously, you're going to drop your whole plan cache, but we're going to force everything to be flushed, okay? At this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look because we're going to create a special directory. We're just going to do a copy only. Remember we talked about copy only? So it's not going to affect the backup chain, but we're going to go in and we're actually in the special directory create a backup, okay? And we're going to see how fast that runs. The last time I executed it took about 11 seconds CPU time and 10 seconds total time. Oh, actually 1 second, 1.1 second CPU time and 10 seconds total time. So let's see if we get the same execution. This kind of time in which, you know, if you're a Jeopardy fan, you can go da 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 da. So anyways, it's finally done, and we go all the way down to the bottom. Oops. Let's see if I can bring it up. Hey, come on. There we go. So there's all the backups going on, and let's bring it up. Wow, a lot of stuff going on this one. Definitely interesting with the GoToWebinar on the right, because let's try Control End. There we go. So again, it is a little better than the last time. It took 1 second. Again, the other one was 1.1. Took 8 seconds to totally run. Okay, so we have a backup now. So let's go ahead and remove this and clear out the buffer again. And then now what we're going to do is, remember I said you can set the number of files? Let's try share the wealth, okay? So instead of backing up to one file, which we just did, and we verify that by switching over to the special directory and going in and taking a look, right? We can see, and the cool thing is he names all the files, so we know it's a copy only because it's right in the name. And 65 megs, so it's a pretty decent sized database, I mean, for a toy example. But what we're going to do now, this time we're going to back up to 4 files, okay? So we're going to go back here, we're going to go to Special 2, has nothing in it yet, and let's execute. Okay, so Control N, and now we can see we've actually saved 200 milliseconds off, and it's still taking a long time to run. And we can verify there's 4 files, right? So now we broke it into 4 files. So instead of having 64 megabyte, we have 4 at, say, 16 megabyte, okay? So let's try tweaking one more parameter. This is kind of one of those experimental things. You know, sometimes being a DBA is an art. So what we're going to have to do is go back and we're going to clean the buffers and free the cache again, let it set free. And then we're going to go back down. This time we're going to add 2 other parameters. We're going to make buffer counts 12, so I'm going to give it some more memory. The max transfer size I'm going to set to 4 megabytes. Block size I'm going to set to 4K. And I'm going to use 6 files because during testing I found this seemed to be a pretty decent set of options to give me a really good result. And never know. I hear my CPU kicking off, so maybe it's taking a little longer since I'm connected to the internet and doing stuff versus in time. But again, we definitely did reduce it. Before we had it 685, and now we're down. When I did this alone by myself in a test environment without being connected and all the stuff going on my laptop, I ended up with the first time I backed up 1 millisecond CPU, and then 600 or 85 milliseconds, and then it went down to 531. In short, though, some things are automatically always going to take the same amount of time, and we noticed that when you do this backup, right, it has to create all these directories, and then it has to create the files. So that setup time is going to take some time to do. If we had a huge 4 terabyte database, we might actually see where the numbers change and we actually get good performance. I just wanted to point these options out to you because they are something that you can tweak, and that's where you want to go if you want to try to actually get more performance out of your backup. Okay, so why do we want to back up to disk and swipe the tape? That's, you might ask me, hey John, I'd rather just swipe to tape. Well, hard disks are getting really cheap. I remember my first hard disk when I got out of college back in 1991, and I think it was 20 meg, and I paid $300 for it. Well, nowadays you're hard pressed to get 2 terabytes for $70. So you can get some really cheap disks, put them on your tape backup, and just copy right there. Okay. What's great about the disk is if you have a good connectivity between your tape backup server and your regular SQL server, restoration is really quick. You don't have to go and search through the tape to find the blocks. It's just right there, and you just start copying. Another thing I'd like to see all do, and I'm definitely going to suggest it to them, is the mirror to clause. You can always do this yourself. You can always do a command shell and do a copy too. It would be nice to get an extra copy. If the backup program is going ahead and sending bytes to the file share, okay, your network share, why not send it to 2 network shares? It's just a little more traffic on the network, okay? You're already, compressing it and, doing whatever you have to do backup, okay? Tapes. I hate tapes. There's been many a time in which we have some of our databases in third world countries, and someone forget to take the tape out, okay? Or the operator will not change the tape. that's why I definitely suggest disk to disk. Okay. Nice thing about if you do disk to disk, to set up the job on the tape, you go ahead and you just do it incremental. Okay. I suggest that you get notifications on the job failure. While tapes are not going to be really your first place to look, you definitely want them. If your server closet goes up in fire, you're not going to be able to get back from that disk. Okay, so you must rotate the tapes off to a DR purpose. Okay. Next two slides are going to be on tape rotations. I do not want to spend too much time on it. Not really that interesting. As long as these tapes are being rotated off, I'm happy. More interesting things to talk about. Okay. Grandfather, father, son approach. Okay, you got 6 tapes. You're going to reuse them for 4 weeks. Okay, so tape 1 on son 1 is Monday. Tape 2, son 2 is on Tuesday. Okay, you're going to have 3 tapes that are going to be on the weekend. Okay, father 1, father 2, and father 3. So it all depends upon what's your requirements for reporting. If you're a small company and you're selling pools, and the only thing you need to do is once a month have a stick in the sand and say, hey, I had a tape backup, this is what it looked like, then you could just take that grandfather, and as long as you get that offsite, then you're happy. If you're a healthcare industry and you have to report weekly, then maybe you'd want all 3 fathers as well as the grandfather brought offsite. Okay. Next slide. Tape rotations. Okay. The Tower of Hanoi is probably the most difficult thing to understand. Okay. I even have a math major. Confuses me, okay? But basically level A you're going to use like every 2 days, and level B is every 4, and level C is 8, and so on. But if you look for something that's complex but reduces the total number of tapes, then take a look at it. So again, for completeness, I'll put it in here. Let's talk about database integrity. And I was talking to Julie about this a little. You can do it right on the production database. Usually not that good. Obviously, it's going to take some CPU cycles on it. Some people that have really large database, they take the database and they restore it, okay, to a test database. There's a lot of options you can do here too. You can do integrity options on file groups, objects. Okay, the main thing is you have to give it a database, okay, to actually do integrity check on. You have to give it some commands. So do you want to do a check DB? And these are just the DBCC commands that you know. And there's a couple options that I use the most, okay? Physical only and no index, okay? If you really have a big database, okay, and your index gets corrupted, what's the worst that can be? You go ahead and rebuild your index, okay? So yeah, I'm not going to lose sleep at night about that. I mean, yeah, my queries are going to run slower, but I can definitely recover from that, okay? Second thing is when you usually use a DBCC in production, what's using behind the scenes you don't even know. It's actually using a database snapshot. Okay. And what you can do is you can force it to be a little faster by using the table lock or the lock timeout. Okay. Again, those are things I don't suggest, but I just want to present to you. And again, log the table and executor there. Okay. So next topic will be maintaining indexes. Let's do a quick example on that though to make it complete. So I'm going to turn my time off because I don't want to see this anymore. Okay, and read-only file groups are homework for you. Okay, so I'm not going to be talking about. Okay, so what we're going to do is check system database. Why not check them once a day? They're really small. It takes a few seconds. Okay, execute. Okay. And it finally shows up. Now, one of the things I did talk about at the very beginning is that all these commands are being logged. Let's take a quick look. Okay, and what we're going to do is just change this to order by ID descending so we can see the most recent one. And I only want to look at the last 10, right, because I don't need everything. And we can see now that MSDB, model, and master were taken, okay, as databases. And guess what? Remember I said that all these commands are actually T-SQL commands that you could run by hand. In the background, it's doing a DBCC with no information messages and all the different parameters. So that's what actually it's boiling down to, okay? So let's go back to close this one. And I'm not going to show you any more about this. You can play around and scripts are actually doing or read them. They're quite lengthy. I printed them out. There's 55 pages of code. Back to back, you can get 25, and definitely some homework. Not only can you go ahead and use a key value like the user databases, but what's really cool about these scripts, it uses kind of like syntax from unit. So the dash is a not. So what you can do is you can say, hey, I'm going to back up the user database, but not the BBQ and the big, okay? And again, we're just going to do check DB, execute this, and this should hurry up, and boom. So again, go ahead and check your databases daily for system. For small databases, do it once a week. For large databases, you might want to think about skipping the indexing. Okay, so I'm going to skip a couple of these because while database integrity is interesting, I want to get into building indexes and rebuilding, so you understand it. But this particular example right here is going to, I'm not going to run it like the other one. It's going to be actually doing just the barbecue databases, which would be these, as well as the big databases. And I'm actually going to do a table lock, and I'm going to say no index. Okay. So example 5. Let's talk about optimizing indexes, because we talked about backing up, we talked about checking the database. Now you need to optimize it. Okay. This finally stopped. So you can see that the check DB will take some time if you're doing other stuff against it. Okay. Has to do a database snapshot again. So small database, okay? We're going to go ahead on small databases, and we're going to specify what we want to do for low fragmentation, medium fragmentation, and high fragmentation. Okay, there's a bunch of options. What I'm showing here is pretty much standard. Low, which is less than 30% fragmentation, ignore it. If it's between 30 and 10 and 30, go ahead and reorganize it, rebuild it online if you can, or rebuild it offline, depending upon threshold. And high, you just want to try to rebuild them online or offline. Online is one of those enterprise features, so unless you have the enterprise version, you're not going to be able to do it. Update statistics. Again, if you're rebuilding, automatically it gets there. If it's reorganizing, you don't. And only modify statistics means that, hey, I don't want to say, hey, rebuild all my statistics. Just do the ones that changed, okay? So let's go back to the slide, because there's a couple things I want to talk about before showing you that example, okay? 2 things that you can use to actually fix indexes, fragmentation that is. You can rebuild, okay? So drop it and start from scratch. Second thing is reorganize. You're going to move those bytes around in those pages, okay? The index levels and the trees, and it's going to be all shuffled, okay? Both commands reduce the amount of fragmentation in indexes and basically increases your database performance, okay? So that's why you want to do it. If you do reorganize, then one of the things you have to do is update the statistics, okay? One of the other commands that you can run by hand, and you'll see it maybe, I don't know if OLA's doing this, is update stats, and I was doing update stats of my own. Back in the old days, and like I said, I've been working with SQL Server since 7.0, there was something called row mod counter, and that was in sys.sys indexes, okay? In a newer version, there is actually a DMV, okay? And that's modification counter, but it uses both of those, okay? And if there's a high enough threshold of change, then it actually goes ahead and updates statistics, okay? One thing you have to worry about, though, okay, is that when you update statistics, it might actually do recompile in your stored procedures, okay? However, it's going to give your query plan better information to work with. So if you suddenly double the amount of data in your database, it's definitely something you want to do. Okay, so we talked about index optimize, okay? And the main thing you need to do is pass it to database, specify what you want to do for low, medium, high, give it some fragmentation levels, okay? Usually 10 and 30 suggested by Microsoft. Put in what you want, but those are the ones that's suggested. You can actually do a delay, and that's really cool, and I put it in here because I think that's very important. Sometimes when you're doing these massive, rebuilds, and it's very database intensive, maybe you want to say, hey, by the way, give it 2 minutes break, let the users do something, and then go on to the next one, okay? So that's what the delay can be there. Update statistics. is a couple commands. You can go ahead and you can tell it if you want to update all the statistics just on the indexes, on the columns. You can even get down to if you want to do a partial scan or full scan in a database to generate the statistics. One of the things I was talking about, Julie, which is really good, is sort and temp DB. This one might actually speed up the index optimization because it's doing all those page shuffles. That if you can do it in a database temp DB and you have a big temp DB, it'll go faster. Okay, so let's get to an example. I know a couple of people are dropping off, but I'm going to try to keep there now. But like I said, it's probably going to run over now 15 minutes to be complete. So in this one, we're going to do all the user databases except for the barbecue and big database. And again, this is what we're going to do. Okay, so we're just going to run this, and boom. So while that's running, I'm going to skip on to the next slide. Okay. So maintenance schedule. This is something that is really, really important. And if you're not doing this, make it, publish it. I'll even include a sample one that I use. It's an Excel spreadsheet, nothing, not rocket science, but you probably heard of baselines, okay? You get baselines on performance of your database. You want baselines on your backups too, okay? So you can see that I'm going to do user databases. They're going to be daily, okay? And I want to do them at a time that's really early in the morning. No one's going to be bothered. And I want to put how long it runs. So we're going to try to schedule them so there's no conflict. You don't want a daily backup going on full when you're actually doing an index reorganization, okay? Same thing with the diff backup, your log, your index, and your check DB. So if you plan those out, it's published out there, people will know about it. System, really quick. You can see they're even less than 1 minute, so shouldn't have any problems there. Two other scripts you might want to download from my site, okay? One's called monitor database size, okay? I do not like having auto growth, okay? I always try to keep 15-20% on my database so I can determine when I'm going to change the size on the weekend, okay? If you got huge databases and there's lots of transactions, the last thing you want to grow. And the second thing is make sure those growth options are good. And so if they're not, the monitor VLFs, that will tell you if there's any virtual log file problems. And last but not least, if you don't do it yourself, put in one of those purge routines from OWA, especially his ones. Also, you want to purge history jobs, some things that are not really that useful after you've used them. For instance, the mail log. Why would you want a trail of sending out an email 2 years old? It's really not that interesting. But you definitely want to keep 30 days because if someone says, hey, I didn't get that email, you can go ahead and debug it. So that's still running in the background. I want to talk about restoring database, okay? The current schedule I showed you allows 1 hour of data loss. That's acceptable to me, okay? We're also going to talk about taking the tail log backup. This can be done even if the data files are missing. I'm going to actually delete some data files. It's going to be really cool. SSMS is not going to like it, but you're going to see you can actually do a restore. And we're going to talk about figuring out that backup chain. That backup chain, the full, the diff, all the logs, and the tail log is going to get you to that point in time restore. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the stop at command, okay? That allows you to get to the particular instant, okay, that if you need to, okay? A lot of times I've gone to a user and said, hey, I get you to here, and they're like, whoops, that's good enough. You got me within 1 hour, I'm happy. Okay, there was really nothing going on during that hour. Now, if you're doing stock transactions, obviously, they're going to say, hey, 1 hour worth of stock transactions, you got to be kidding me. Okay, so we can see this actually worked, and we just re-indexed it, and it goes through and tells all the commands actually are done, and you can go ahead and look at the log. Another thing you can do is, remember I said indexing and then statistics. This particular one, if you wanted to go ahead and run, you could say, hey, I want to do nothing for fragmentation, but I just want to update all the statistics. I'm going to leave that for you to play around with later, okay? You can do the same thing with the system databases, okay? So we're going to talk about restoring a database because now we got that database, it's been backed up, we got it on file, we've made our database really fast, and guess what? Something goes wrong, right? So what do? Okay? Remember, way back here, I deleted, okay, 2 tables, right? If we go to first name, and we go here and go select, oops, no data, okay? And then if you go to last name and you go select, oops, no data. So we want to go use that backup. So some user came to me and said, hey, by the way, we can't restore, okay? What do? Okay? We'll go ahead and use that USP get backup chain, give it a name, and what you're going to do is you're going to get the list of what happened, okay? So it's going to show us that, there's a bunch of backups, okay? And you can get backup type database and, where it was and so on, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and verify our backups. So we started at 1234. So these are the 3 backups I did. Log, differential, full, differential, log, okay? So what I did is I put them right here. You just Control-C, so you copy it, okay? As simple as you can be. You go in, Control-V, you got it in there, put a quote in, and you're ready to rock and roll, okay? So what we want to do is we want to make sure the backup's good and what's on it, okay? So we're going to execute this one. And what we can see is that, let's slide this over a little, we can see that the actual file group is there, the size of it, and we can go over and we can see that it was a backup, and there's the max size. What do I want to show you? There is one in here. Whoops. Right here. Backup size in bytes. That's the most important thing in the whole thing, because you can see that it took a lot of work to actually go ahead and get this backup, okay? We're going to see that the diff is a lot smaller, okay? So I'm going to execute the next one, okay? So execute. And now the next one we're going to go ahead and we're going to go down and get the differential, Control-C, and we'll go back to verify lifts, and go Control-N, Control-V. Oops. I hit the wrong one? Yeah, I did. Control-C. Try this again. If I do my cut and paste correctly, be all set. Boom. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to verify the differential backup. Okay. So now we can see here, and again, that field is the most interesting one out of them all. Okay. If I can find it again, backup size right here. We can see that backup size has suddenly dropped drastically. Okay. We're using data compression, so that's why it was real small. So now what we're going to do is we're going to restore that missing data. So now we got the 2 strings we want. Instead of going back and asking the backup table what they are, I'm just going to cut and paste them. Okay. First thing you want to do when you do backup is you're going to restore it, but you're going to put it in no recovery. Okay. So you don't want to recover it. Okay. Second thing is, you know what? SP-who2 is your friend. Okay. So you want to make sure no one's using it. Okay. So I'm going to do SP-who2. Go down. We can see that there's a couple databases. We got 52 and 55. It looks like someone just doing some diagnostics or whatever. Might have been me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill, okay, the actual session 52. Execute, and try this one more time. Execute, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to kill 55. So that way we have no users in the database. You can set it to single user if you want. So this is my own process. I don't need that. So boom, we're ready to go. Okay. So at this point, we store a full backup. Remember, we want to replace it because we didn't do tail lock, and we want no recovery. So we want this to actually stay, so we can add the differential to it. Okay. It's going to run this. Hey Julie, can you tell me when it's 1:15? Okay. Last but not least. Good. So now, if we look over here, we hit refresh. We can see that refresh. Go here. We should see that's in restoring mode. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to add that differential to it, and we're going to get a point in time restore just before we delete the data. Okay. Obviously, this is all play, but it gets you ready to roll with the big leagues when you have to do a restore. Okay. Okay, so we're done. So now if we go refresh, okay, dive in, take a look at the tables that we purged last time, we can see, voila, there's our data. So if your boss came to you and you had to do that, it'd be a happy day, because he'd be, hey, by the way, save that bacon. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a tail backup, okay? So we're going to get the backup chain of autos, okay? We can see that we have a database, a differential, a log, okay? We're going to add one record, okay? Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to do something that you should never do. So don't ever do this in production, but we're going to take it off and we're going to get rid of the data files. Okay, so at this point we should be in offline mode. Okay, and then what we can do is, for this particular example, I got something called damage. Take a quick look at it. Just removes anything that's related to autos. Okay, so we're going to damage the database and go to data. It should be no autos. Right. So now if you hit refresh, okay, it still thinks it's offline, and it's not acceptable. Okay, so if we try to bring it online, there you go. It's going to crash. Okay, so now we have that disaster that just happened. Okay, somehow your data file blew up. Don't know what to do. Okay, so first thing you want to do is do a tail backup. There's two options. If the database is still online, you might be able to do the no truncate. If that doesn't work, try to do the continue after error. Okay, so we want to get that one record from the log backup to the tail, which we just did some work, and apply the tail. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to do this. Execute. So it's going to put in backup, and we're going to call it tail log. And since the log, use convention. I'm going to change my script a little. Again, bear with me. This is the first time presenting this. Been using these scripts for a long time, but I never talked about them. And guess what? Now we actually got a tail log backup. So if we go ahead and take a look at MySQL backup, we can see we have a tail ready to go. Okay, so we still have to, restore everything, but again, we need to know what files to actually grab. So what we're going to do is going to go back here, and I'm going to bring this, copy of this, a lot closer to my restores so I can see what I need to cut and paste. Okay, so we go back to our backups and we take a look at it and we slide over, and so we do it in reverse order. So this is the last thing that happens: the tail, log, differential, full. Grab a full backup, put it in. Okay, and what we're going to do is, whoops. So we're going to declare it there as the backup, and then we're going to no recovery replace. So we're going to do the full first. Okay, so that worked. Again, we hit refresh. Okay, you can see it's restoring. Next thing we're going to do is go back and get the backup chain again. Going to execute it. Going to get the differential. Whoops, keep on wanting to get that time and date instead of the backup file. So here's our backup file. Okay, execute. Okay, going to go ahead and get that log file. So if we went ahead and turned it right now, we'd have everything up to before that last single transaction I put in. Okay, but we don't want that. We want to go past that. Oops, damn, still grabbing that time. It's definitely interesting trying to do webinars because I don't have the same screen space, and since I'm home, I have multiple monitors, so it's definitely making it interesting. So I'm going to apply a log backup, okay, and last but not least, we're going to do the tail log, and let's see if we get that one transaction that we're doing all this work for. So Control C, okay, Control V, going to do a quote, boom, okay, and now we're going to apply a tail log backup. Okay, boom. Now if we hit refresh on databases, did we save our bacon? Yes, we did. So let's go take a look at that one table. So you take that one table, you select it, and boom, we have that Saturn. That Saturn that we were missing actually showed up, so that's good. So we did the tail log backup, we used it. If we knew exact time, like maybe within an hour we didn't know exactly where, we could use the stop at, okay? So that's a good command to use too. Okay, best practices. We're almost there. How am I doing, Julie? 110.
Sorry, 110. Yeah, I was on mute.
No problem. So I got 5 more minutes. I'm trying to stay to that hour and 15 minutes. I know it's a lot to cover. Okay, so best practices. Okay, what do we want to talk about? Full differential backups. Okay, at the start of the day. Do them early in the morning. No one's going to complain. Okay. Do your transactional log backups every X hours. And I mean X hours as how much data do you want to lose. Talk to your manager. Okay. Because if you want to do it faster and you want to take more backups, you're going to have more disk space. So definitely plan accordingly. Copy the backups from the database to an archive server. Okay. If you have SAN, like Julie has, you can do a snapshot and you're all done. Swipe the backups from the archive server to the tape. That's great because now you get on tape. It's a media that you can send off-site. Okay. And do some type of tape rotations. You definitely do not want to leave the tapes there. Last but not least is most important of all. Okay. Most people walk into the server room and you see the tapes on top of the tape machine. And I'm like, oh my God, what happens if there is a fire? So do not do that. Okay, best practices. These are things that should be done on the weekend. Okay, so we want to verify the integrity of each database. You want to remove data, old data that is, from MSDB. Some things, like I said, you could add in there are removing from mail. Why keep the mail stuff around? There's other stuff I've done in the past that I've purged when MSDB gets too big. Also purge your file systems. OLA Hologram already has supplied that for you for the actual backups and cells. There might be other things you might want to be doing that you actually might want to go ahead and purge. Rebuild and reorganize are intensive, so do them on the weekends. If they're really small databases, you can get away with it. Do it every day. Same thing with statistics. Full backups. You know, if you got a really huge database, go ahead and try using read-write file groups. Okay, that'll allow you to do that partitioning by either table partition or partition views. Again, offsite those. Last but not least, monthly. Monthly is the most important. Okay, you don't have to do it daily. Can do it weekly if you want. You want to go ahead and restore those tapes and test the validity of the backup. Okay. Some comments. This is my own personal stuff. Okay. I'd love to see the mirror 2 added to the syntax. Okay. Again, I'm going to reiterate. This is the third time I said it. Okay. Make sure those tapes are sent off site. It's critical. A test server can be used to back them up and do it DBCC. A lot of times, if you have a really big server out there, you do check DB, you're going to either stop production, which we've done before. Okay, someone on my team set something up. Don't want to do that. I know at the past summit, they introduced a utility in which you can, in older versions, not just 2012, you can back up to Azure for offsite storage. Problem with that is a lot of sites I work with, they're like in Malaysia and Mexico. Malaysia's not bad, but China is. And so you just don't have that bandwidth to actually throw it up to the internet, okay? There's a couple things interesting with the script. If you go ahead and you do a backup in 2 databases of the same name except for spaces, it doesn't like it. If you have that same problem, give me an email. I'll send you a solution. It's just changing one command line in the OLA hologram script if you find it, and you'll be all set. OLA is currently working on 2.14. If you need it and you're playing around with it, ask for it. Maybe you can help them learn and figure out the new stuff that's coming out of 2.14. I've been so busy myself, I'm not doing 2.14 right now. In summary, I just want to say this is awesome. If you don't have it, go get it. Please stop backing up. Please do maintenance. It's free. Okay. References. There's a bunch of references. I'm not going to go through them all. There's 2 pages of it, but everything I talked about you can get on pretty much TechNet. Also, Hologram is right here, and Brad McKee did an article not as in-depth as mine on administration using them. I already talked about my bibliography. Again, books online is the first place, Google second. You can ask me. That's my website. That's my email, and that's it. So I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. And Julie, is there any questions?
Yes, there are a few questions, so if people want to stick around for those. One was, at the very beginning, you chose to install in the MSDB. Is there a reason for choosing the MSDB for the install database?
Not really any reason why. Like I said, I personally do not. The scripts usually go in master, and master is more important than MSDB if there's a outage or something. So I don't really care if master grows a little. I I do care if master grows a little bit. MSDB, I don't. So that's why I put them there. If you're not happy with that, go ahead and make your own database called tools or something like that. You can put those scripts I showed you off my website, which are monitoring space and VLFs, and you can just put it in that database, and you can put these scripts right there.
Is it good to actually still use XP command shell?
Well, that's interesting, and you did see that there. You can set it up so that it uses a certificate or pass-through account, so there's definitely ways to actually secure it. I just did it because I want to show you that, you know, this is what's going behind the scenes. The OAuth hologram scripts are actually doing the running of the XP, you know, delete file and remove commands, and I haven't dug in that deep, so I'll have to see if he's using XP command shell. He might just be spawning off a SQL command utility. So I hope that answers that. If not, just write to me.
The scripts should be, let's see, the recording will be uploaded by the end of the week, and then, John, if you want to send me your PowerPoint slide or your scripts, I could also post those on our archive of this with the recording.
Cool, Julie. It's been my pleasure talking today.
Wait. We still have a couple more.
No way. I will definitely post them out there. The only thing you won't have is my databases per se. If you want, you can download. I have a prior presentation for the barbecue database, so you can create them yourself. The autos database is on my website, and I will definitely post these scripts on my website, as well as I'll give them to you so you can post them too.
Okay. What if all your file groups are read-write? Can you back up only a particular file group, non-primary, I guess? I can't read.
Actually, that's fine. When you go ahead and you use the read-write file groups, it automatically backs up the primary because it assumes, okay, that you're making changes to the primary, okay, to add that additional file group, okay. Think.
Yeah.
In 2014, there's going to be more stuff on re-indexing, but I didn't see anything about backing up file groups. Usually, I know you can do it manually yourself. I don't know if the script does, but go on to the next question, and I'll research it real quick.
I had to answer. You had done an example where you were backing up one database to multiple files. And the question had to do, would you have to restore all the files if you were doing a restore? And it's like, yes, if you split your backup to multiple files, then you need all those files back for your restore.
That is true.
So I answered that one.
The problem, though, is again, remember you told me you had that 8 terabyte database. If you didn't have a fancy SAN, it was taking too long. This is a technique in which you can hopefully get some more speed out of your disk.
Right. This one says you can always use duplicate the backups when you specify the backup directories by using commas.
I have not tried that out yet. So maybe he has done that, and if so, I'll definitely put that on my to-do list and say, hey, you don't need the mirror too. You can just use the commas.
Does the table logging report success of the command executed?
Yes, it does. And if you put it in a job and you have learning on there and it fails, you actually have your error message there where it stopped last. Now, this is great, though, because if you're doing massive index rebuilds like you're talking about, Julie, on a database, and something stops, you really definitely want to know what index you were in the middle of rebuilding, and you had a problem because you have to rebuild that index still. So yeah, logging of failures will definitely be there.
And this person made another suggestion to Ola about adding logging of the index defrag options so that he could do the analysis of which indexes were fragmented by which amount, so he could then go and make a fill factor change. So that was a suggestion that was already presented to Ola.
Yeah.
Let's see, as a suggestion.
Yep, and that's a great suggestion. There is a bunch of you can definitely go out and see how much fragmentation is out there. And yeah, if you want to record that and figure out if you want to change the field back, to go for it.
Yeah. Okay, and that's it. Again, John, thanks for staying over to our attendees, and thank you for your presentation. It was very well received. And
Thank you
what I
very
can
much.
do is I can send the question log to you as well.
Excellent, Julie. Thank you for moderating, and everyone have a great day, and start using all those scripts if you haven't, because it definitely will save you bacon in the future.